Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Welcome back to this second of a very special two-part series. Shawn Novatt, manager of WHPC, is interviewing me. This is the last of the last Just Relationship shows. And I have invited him to interview me because I thought that after 34 years of doing Just Relationships, I might let you guys in on everything I know about relationships and about good relationships and how to avoid unhealthy relationships. And I thank you so much, Shawn, for agreeing to interview me.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show, and thank you for 34 years of fabulous programming here on WHPC. Congratulations! It's it's quite an honor to be here that long. So, kudos to you.
Thank you, Shawn. It has really been my baby, and I say goodbye in this very last show. Very bittersweet. I feel quite sad. I've loved every minute of it, and I want to spend more time in Florida.
as do I. Take me with you.
Yes. As I'm still having my full-time clinical practice, thank goodness, because of Zoom. But this is the last of the professional things besides that I am letting go of. And so it's goodbye and hello. And I want everyone to know that Just Relationships is still going to go on, that we have a composite of wonderful podcasts. So, Shawn, will you just explain to people how to get the WHPC app? There are many ways, but I think if you just let people know about that would be very helpful.
What makes you think I know? No, I'm kidding. Absolutely. We have the last 6 or 7 years of shows since I've been here have been made available wherever you get your podcasts. So if you listen on your iPhone or Android or computer, wherever you listen, wherever you download podcasts from, our podcast of Just Relationships is available just by searching for WHPC Just Relationships. And we also have a link to them through the WHPC app. So if you go to your app store on your phone, whichever kind of phone you have, and search for WHPC, download our free app, and click on the podcast button and scroll on down to Just Relationships, and you'll see well over 200 episodes of Dr. Duffy's shows. So lots of informative discussions that we've had over the last 7 years or so for those podcasts. But the show's been on for 34 years. I wish there was a way to digitize all of the old shows, because obviously when you started 34 years ago, I don't know if you ever did the shows live. We pre-record the shows now, but even back then you were probably pre-recording on big reel-to-reels, and it's time-consuming and hard to digitize those. So a lot of those are probably saved here in our closets. One day we'll have to dig them out and see if we can get them on the old machines to work, right?
Right. So thank you, Shawn. So the WHPC, just get the app yourself or go to iHeartRadio. And when you scroll down to Just Relationships, you will also see the topics.
Mm-hmm. And the guests.
And yes, and the guests. So we will, whether it's sibling relationships or many, many intimate relationships with couples, relationship with yourself, on self-esteem, lots of stuff on self-esteem building, because we have to be aware that it is our relationship with ourself that is the beginning of everything. And unfortunately, most people, let me amend that, many people have what's called a disowned self. And what that means is I don't like myself very much. I don't think well of myself. I even hate myself. And I ask you, if you reject yourself, who is left? Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is left. So it is very, very important to embrace ourselves and to embrace all of ourselves. And last week we started talking about the shadow self.
Right.
And the shadow means every aspect of us that we don't like, that we should on ourselves. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. I'm bad because I did this or that. And the shadow always involves shame. So when we feel ashamed, we hide, and we think we're hiding certain things, but it comes out anyway, Shawn. It comes out in emotional leakage. When people try to repress certain feelings or thoughts, there is that emotional leakage. So what we want to do, as Carl Jung, this is not my idea, this is Carl Jung, who created the concept of the shadow, is to look at ourselves and to say, okay, I didn't like that I did this or that, but instead of condemning ourselves, to say, how come I acted less than my highest self? How come I was snarky to that person? How come I covertly put that person down through sarcasm or innuendo? How come I asked that person a question I knew they couldn't answer? What was that about for me? Well, almost always it's about trying to preserve our own sense of ego, that I am good. I am worth knowing. I am worth listening to. But unfortunately, there's a healthy ego and an unhealthy ego. And unhealthy ego wants it all, wants everything, wants it to be about themselves and not about other people. Whereas healthy ego is, I have worth, you have worth. I have value, you have value. So if I think you're better than me, and this for me, Shawn, has been one of my awarenesses. If I know somewhere inside, I believe someone to be better than me, I can, inside my head, put them down, make all kinds of judgments, or I can try to get them to like me. Because if someone I really value likes me, that makes me more worthy. That makes me better somehow. So I know inside, if I think of someone as better than me or worse than me, that's trouble. That's trouble.
But isn't that inherent in just being a human being, that there are people that you just inherently think are better than you?
Yeah, let's look at that. That's very important, because there's always hierarchy. You know, the ancient hierarchy was based on gender and age. So the oldest male was top of the heap, and then because gender was so severe, it was this younger man who was second, and then the older woman, and then the younger woman. And that is the ancient hierarchy. And we still have that. So inherently, there is a sense, but here's the deal, Shawn. That has to do with rank order. When I have done, because I'm not doing it anymore, when I have done management training, I would always start with that. You have a higher rank on the hierarchy, but that does not mean that you are better than another human being. That workplaces that have a high degree of defensiveness and CYA, cover your ass attitude, are those where people believe that other people are innately superior or inferior. In places that are open and highly productive, people know there's a distinction between the rank on the hierarchy and basic worth as a human being. So I have always made it a practice. I am the only one, when I have gone to corporate workplaces, I'm the only one who knows the names of the people who clean the bathrooms and say hello to them. And people appreciate that. Do you hear the difference? That I know on the hierarchy, you have rank over me, but as a human being, I don't think you are superior or inferior to me. And many people equate that. Does that make sense, Shawn?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear you say that.
I still think you're better than me, though, Duffy. So it's okay.
Right. Well, let's stay with that, because if I think you're better than me, I'm going to resent you. I may think you get more goodies, more favoritism than I do, and I can resent that. And then, as I said in last week's show, the difference between healthy and unhealthy envy. Well, Shawn is getting more favorites, more goodies than I am. So what does that mean? Does it mean that, for me, it means that I want those things myself? Okay. So now I have to assess the situation. Will I be able to get those things myself in this environment? Or is there purely patriarchy and the males get the goodies? Or is there nepotism? Or is there cronyism? Or is there a very unhealthy manager or authority figures who are oblivious to other people's human needs? If I decide that workplace is toxic to me, I may choose to leave it. Or let's suppose I can't afford to leave it. Let's suppose I don't believe there are any other jobs available. Then what do I do? And this is a very important question for the average person, because many of us are in toxic environments, whether they are work or home, that we have to decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to change the environment, or are we going to change ourselves? And in changing ourselves, we can change the environment. We can turn around and say to someone who has mistreated us, we can either ignore it if, as I said last week, if it's only a normal poor delivery, until it gets to the point where we say, no, I can't hear you when you talk to me that way. We can state our positive intentions. I want to be friendly with you. I want us to have a friendly, productive work relationship. And I have to tell you that when you speak to me in that way, a part of me just goes away, and I don't want to engage with you. But I know I really basically like you and want to engage with you. So what's going on here? We don't have to have all the answers. We can put it out to the other person. We can say, something is going on with us. I'm feeling some tension. I don't know if you are as well, but I just want to clear the air, and I just want to say, I like you. I'd like to get along with you. I think it would be great if we could work together in a friendly way. So what do you think? What do you say? And is there anything you want to tell me? Have I offended you in any way? Because I do not want to offend you. So tell me. Now, I will say, Shawn, that the average person does not receive feedback in a direct way, a kind way, because people either say, the hell with you, I'm not talking to you, I will diss you in very subtle ways, or they are not so subtle, but there are ways that people go away and their body is there, but not their heart and their mind. So we have to address it in some way, shape, or form, and without blaming the other person. because this is what people do. They get involved in the blame shame game and they make that person bad or wrong. So let me give you an example of the intimate sphere. We went from the work sphere. Let me give you an example of the intimate sphere.
Sure.
Studies have shown that marriages of long duration who consider themselves happily married have one major distinction than unhappily married couples. And that is that when their partner gets down and dirty with them, that they don't assume that partner is malicious toward them and wants to hurt them. They make the assumption instead that my partner just has poor coping skills, has poor communication skills, and they are really acting out because they're unhappy and they don't know how to express it. So does that make sense when you change the assumption you have of that person and you assume that they're hurting? Their behavior is poor. There's no getting around it. They are misbehaving. So we can either, as you said before, we can either react, we can be reactive, or we can be responsive and say, that was an ouch. I do a lot of couple counseling and I instruct my people just to say ouch to your partner. Now you might say, oh, but I really did want to zing my partner, right? I'm not going to say I'm so innocent. My partner hurt me and I wanted to hurt him or her back. Yes, that is the lower self. The higher self does not want to hurt a beloved, but the lower self does. And here's why. The reason we seek revenge is because we don't believe that that person cares about us or understands how much we're hurting. So we say, I'm going to hurt that person. Then they're really going to get how I feel, how much they hurt me. And that's why people hurt their partners, because of revenge. I want you to have empathy for me. You don't have empathy for me? Well, have empathy for yourself and see how much it hurts. That's what it feels like. What is it like for you hearing that, Shawn?
It's bringing back bad memories. No,
Yeah.
no, that's how most fights start, because I'm hurt and I want you to be hurt just back. So you throw something at me, I'll throw something bigger back at you.
Right. So the mudslinging, so the knife becomes the gun and the gun becomes the AR-15 and you go on and on. You just keep upping the ante. So,
sure.
Which brings us to empathy. And if we have empathy for ourselves and compassion for ourselves, that is very, very important in having a good relationship with ourselves. We are not taught, Shawn, to have compassion for ourselves or empathy for ourselves. We are taught that is self-pity. I'm having a pity party and get off the pity pot. But I want to tell everyone that is not the case. Because if I can take a U-turn and if I can say, wow, okay, stop myself. I notice I'm saying awful things to myself about that other person in my head. Why? Okay, got it. They hurt me. Why? Because they put me down and they made me feel less than myself, and I can't tolerate that. So now we ask the question, do I believe what they're saying is true? Okay. So if someone says to me, I don't like you because you have purple polka dots all over your body, you will laugh at them. You will know that's not true. But if they say something to you that you believe is also true about yourself, something negative about yourself, then you will seek to deny it because you can't tolerate having that terrible thing about you. So what if you say, you're right. I was greedy. You're right. I did hoard that. I could have given it away because I'm not really using it, but I hoarded it. Now, say you're a hoarder, you're greedy, you're selfish, or ask yourself the smart question, why did I hoard that? Why did I hold on to that? Well, because I'm afraid if there's a rainy day, I'm not going to have anything. I'm not going to have it. So I have to hold on to 10 of something because I don't want to be without. I don't want to be in scarcity. So these are smart questions one asks of themselves, which is, what is the reason why I am exhibiting bad behavior? And there's always a reason, Shawn. And the reason is about fear, because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to lose something I have, which is about jealousy. Jealousy is when I'm afraid to lose what I have. Envy is when I want something that someone else has. So these two things don't have to be negative. I really envy you that you have this big, gorgeous house. Now, am I going to work 10 jobs so I can have that big, gorgeous house? Or do I choose to go to the beach instead? It's my choice. But I need to know what I value and what my priorities are. So, Shawn, is this making sense to you, what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It is 100% making sense. But as we come towards the end of your run here at WHPC in Just Relationships, let's briefly talk about ending relationships. What is the best way to end a relationship? Depending, especially one that you don't want to end, like this one.
Oh, what a brilliant question. Most people are very bad at ending relationships. Very, very bad. They have terrible exiting skills. Terrible. A lot of people have very good entry skills for relationships. How do I open a relationship, build a relationship? But how do I end a relationship? Now, you said if the person does not want, so you're saying if somebody wants to end a relationship and you don't?
Or vice versa. Absolutely. I mean, in this case, I know it's bittersweet for you to end this relationship. You know, how do you cope with a relationship ending that you don't necessarily want to end?
Wow. Why do we voluntarily end things?
Or involuntarily. Sometimes it ends for you.
Well, that's two very different things, right? If there's a voluntary ending, we look at the reasons why, and it's moving on to something better. Like I do a lot of work with people on weight loss, and the idea, well, why am I not having the sugar? Because it's toxic to me. What do I want instead? We have to look at what we want instead. And so if we make that choice of a voluntary ending, now I gave the example of food. What if I voluntarily end a relationship and that other person doesn't want that? That's a very, very sad thing because most of us have been rejected 8 lifetimes worth. And going back to what I said last week, this is about me. It's not about you. We're not matching the same energy level. We're not matching the same values. I don't feel so comfortable with you. That means you probably don't feel so comfortable with me. So I just want to say thank you for what we've had. And I wish you well. I wish you love, as the song goes. So is that answering the idea of voluntary versus involuntary?
Oh, absolutely. Because sometimes people are ending relationships with you. You could get fired from a job. You can be ending a romantic relationship and, it comes out of left field and you don't see it coming. Those are the involuntary ones. But then when you're the one initiating the ending, you're voluntarily making that decision.
Right. And I just addressed that. So I want to just end with the idea of if someone is ending something with you, because that's so painful, right? Feeling rejected, whether it's a job or a person, I always look for my part in the play. What did I do? Did I do anything that caused this outcome? Now, I think many people don't want to look at themselves, and many people are in a perfectionistic society afraid of being fallible. So they want to be infallible. But if I own my own fallibility, then I'm free, because I can say, oh yeah, I definitely goofed. I didn't respect that person's space. I didn't respect their time. I didn't respect them, their needs. And so this is what gives us freedom, Shawn, because this is the area that we can change. We can change ourselves. We can't change another person. So I can look at myself and see what a learning lesson it is for me, a life learning, and go on from there and use that information for my future. So we have about a minute left to say goodbye, Shawn. And I do feel sad.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would you like to say to the audience who've listened to you over at least once over the last 34 years?
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for listening, and mostly to thank you for caring about relationships, because relationships are everything, and how we treat ourselves and how we treat each other makes the difference between a world that could be annihilated and a world that could prosper. And we have to make peace with ourselves, and we have to forgive ourselves for all of our trespasses. And the way we do that is we say, how come I acted badly? There was a reason, not an excuse, but there was a reason. So let me look at that, and let me see what I can change in my own life so that I can behave better according to my highest standards.
Well, thank you, Duffy, for everything you've given us here at WHPC. The show will live on as a podcast, and of course, this is goodbye for now, but not goodbye forever, I hope. And thank you for everything. We really appreciate all that you've given to the airwaves here of Long Island and here at Nassau Community College.
Thank you so much, Shawn.
I hope you enjoy Florida most.
Oh yes, thank you for all you have given to me personally, and to Just Relationships, and to WHPC. So this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye, not goodbye for now, goodbye, and wishing you great and loving relationships.